And greetings. My name's Dwayne, and I'm just trying to get set up here to really maximize to show you the best to do project here. It's actually building this flower hat. Started working out with a number of different flowers, and this is another design that I've come up with that I really like, and would like to just give you the pattern to it and let you work with that too. So there's several different things that I've done with this pattern, and I'm going to show you a couple different types of the pattern too, so we can actually build different types of gnomes. But it's not only just for gnomes. We can actually do this with different crafts too. So give you a basic idea how it comes out. It comes out looking like a little flower. And we can do different sizes. And so I'm going to make the patterns first. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to put together a pattern. And then we're going to put together the hat and let you decide how you want to make it. And this was just fun too. I did this just a little while ago, just playing, and thought, wow, that would be another idea for making the hat. So we're going to take just a little bit of time here and going to draw out the pattern first thing. So it's not something that you have to buy or anything like that. I will have it available probably later on in a cardstock form or anything, but we're going to draw it out first thing here. We're going to draw out the pattern and then we're going to cut it out. So if you have some paper handy, cardstock would work great to make the pattern. Also, if you have like 2 or 3 pieces of felt, have that handy to work with. And what we're going to do, grab my handy ruler here. I'm going to give you the measurements too as we go along. So you can just draw it out, measure it yourself, and then come up and have your own pattern. What I'm going to need first off is we're going to do the bottom part here and give you the measurements. I'm just going to line up my ruler here with the edge here. And it's 4 inches. I need a 4-inch side. So I got a 4-inch side. And then I'm going to have 2 inches across the bottom. So 4 inches, 2 inches. Now I want to measure down 1.5 inches from the very top there. So I'm going to go down 1 inch, 1.5 inches. And then from that 1.5 inches, I'm going to go across and just put a mark here at 1.25 inches. So just so we know, this is 4 inches all together here. And then here I've gone 1.5 inches down. And then across here, 1.25 inches. And I marked that there. And the reason I marked that is because that's where I want my intersection to go. I don't want to widen out any or anything. So I'm going to take from the top, and this is just going to be freehand, and I'm going to go down to my mark there. I got little divots in my table here, so that doesn't help. So I've gone down to my mark, and then again, from this mark here, I'm 1.25 inches across here, I'm going to go down to my 2-inch mark. So I'm just freehanding again, right on down to that mark there. So make sure I label that. That's 2 inches. We got 4 inches here, 2 inches here. Now, at the bottom here, I want to give it a little bit of a curve to it. Something that shows a little bit of just some character to it. And again, this doesn't have to be exact or anything, but I'm going to start at the corner there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up 1/2 inch. Just pick a spot about 1/2 inch up here that I want to meet to. And from that corner, I'm just going to round that up to that 1/2 inch and back down. And sort of round that off. So I have a 1/2 inch here. So this is going to give me my first hat, my first underneath pattern here. I'm going to do a second one because I have a top piece here. And we're going to show a couple different things with this top piece too. So this is going to be a little bit smaller here. And I'll show you why in a little bit here too, that we're going to do 2 3/4. So 1, 2, 2 3/4 inches. By 1.5 inches. So I got 2 3/4 by 1.5. And again, I'm going to come down, but I'm going to make it a 1 inch. So I mark down 1 inch. And trying to do this a little bit slow here too, so people can catch up to if there's, if they're questioning the measurements or anything. So we come down 1 inch here, and I'm going to go over 3/4 inches, 3/4 of an inch. And once again, just like I did with the larger one, I'm going to draw down to that mark, and then I'm going to draw down to this mark here. And here, just round it. So basically, I just have a rounded piece here. And we're going to do the same type of thing that we did down here, just giving it that curve in there. We're only going to go up about 1/4 inch on here and round it. This part's going to be cut out. So we're not even going to use this part here. We're just going to use the part that's notched there. So that's going to give me my bottom part and my top part. Now, I've also come up with a third part to it, this little stem. So on all these, I have this stem. It can be done without it too. I think it looks great. I mean, we did this little hut with the stem, but also even if going without the stem. So we're going to do the stem too, just so you have the pattern. And again, it can be something that you use or not. That's up to you. And with the stem, I'm going to be doing, it's going to be 2 inches across. But what I want to do is whenever I'm making something like triangle type hat, I'm going to be doing some angling up on it. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch on the one side. And I'm going to angle up to that 1/2 inch. And I'll tell you just in a moment here why I do that when we cut it, show you. And then I'm going to go up 4 inches on this side. So 4 inches on the side there, and then I'm just going to connect those 2 dots. You can either freehand, just draw something along, or take your ruler and connect that. You'll see on most of my patterns, I usually do a hashtag, just a dotted line type of thing. That's to show you the baseline. And again, the reason I do that is so when I cut it out, I could tilt it, and when that's flat, that comes more in the center. The point is more in the center than off to the side. So that's why I do that going up. So we're going to actually cut that along this line here, the line going up. So now I just take my scissors. We have drawn out the pattern here. This is just the basic, simple pattern here for our hats. And we're going to cut it out now. And nothing has to be totally perfect, but this side here, this side is going to be my fold side. So I'm going to be laying that on the fold of my felt. Now again, just to show you for the hat here, I went up 4 inches You can actually adjust that somewhere 3 to 5 inches, however you want to height you want. Because what I do is I like to do this little fold over. I'm going to have a seam, and I like to have that fold over where it's covered. So most of mine are going to go up and fold over. This one I did not. I left the seam in it, but put the seam in the back. And when I glued it, it came down a little bit. And speaking of that, this is going to be all glue. This is going to be just glued together. There's no sewing whatsoever involved, so you're not going to need that. So just have your glue gun handy. And again, if you want to go back and do this afterwards, this is a great thing just to make sure that you have the pattern. And once you have the pattern, you can make it from there. We're going to cut out, this is going to be the top part. Well, the second layer part. So I have my two main pieces right there. And once again, this is 2 inches across on the bottom here. And that's just straight up, roughly close to about that 4 inches again by the time if you really want to measure it. Gonna be sleepy. All right, so this is gonna be the triangle hat part. So there we have our pattern pieces. Now, if you do have felt, trim that up just a little bit. If you do have a couple of the felt squares, well, they call them squares, but they're actually 9 by 12s. Go ahead and grab just a color, whatever color you like. I have used this, as you can see, with purple, blue, green, whatever colors you want to call these things, fuchsia, reds, all different types of colors, just beautiful. I love this orange, the way this came out. So trying to come up with a bunch of different colors and everything. I get a lot of my 9 by 12 felt pieces from Hobby Lobby. They seem to have a great variety, and they're pretty good in price. They're pretty cheap that way too. I have gotten a number of different ones from Joann's too. There's certain ones, like for Unnie the Gnome, that I can only find the color seems to be through Joann. But Hobby Lobby seems to have, most of the time in stock, this green that I really like for my forest green and other colors too. So now I'm going to take my larger pattern, my one that's 4 inch, and we're going to need to fold that over so I can fit that on there. And I'm going to show you how we can get 6 pieces out of this one piece of felt. One of the things I like to do too is get as many pieces as I can out of one piece of felt. So I'm not having to put together 2, 3, 4 pieces of felt. And now we're just going to cut along our pattern. So if you're cutting along with me, just cut your pattern piece out. Make sure you're on the fold there. Now some people do like to pin. I've had a number of people ask me about that too. You don't pin your pattern down. I typically don't. I usually cut, and a lot of times I freehand cut. So I'm just sort of making it up as I go along sometimes. But here, this is going to be our basic shape. Now, once you've gone and you've made your basic shape and you've done this a few times, you may want to do something a little bit different with your angles. You might want to make this farther over. You might want to curl this around a little bit. So there's different things you can do with just that little base. The main thing is you want to keep the sides the same, but the base down here is where you're going to add all your character to it there. So we have our first one. As I said, we're going to cut out a total of 6 of these. And it's designed so we can fit 2 at a time up top here. And I'm trying to round that out just a little bit as I cut it. and cut right up the side. So we got a couple pieces going here. Now, I'm going to continue on. Now, see, the bottom part here, just to give you a math lesson here, is 2 inches. So if I open that up, I got 4 inches. This is a 12-inch piece of felt. So 4 inches times 3 is going to be that whole 12 inches. So we're going to have a little bit, because we have extra here, little overlapping. So we don't want to just try to line up our pieces here, or we're going to be off. But by folding this over, and here's the trick, turn your pattern over. Turn it upside down. So we're going with the curve of the first one. So turn your pattern over, and we're going to cut it out. This is how we get 6 pieces out of 1 piece of felt. So we're kind of zigzagging back and forth as we do this. Normally I would have everything all pre-cut out, do 1 or 2, and then show you how, but I want to make sure for those people who are actually working along with me that we're doing this so we can put it all together at the end here. And again, I'm upside down. I'm going the opposite direction, so my base part of it is down here. I folded it over, cut along. And so here now I actually have 4 pieces, and if you open it up, you can see I've gone the opposite. So I can get the third and final row in here. And this time again, we're going right side up. So make sure we got room there. And I do, with all my patterns, I will get somebody that will ask me or question me about how to get all of them on. As long as you stay with the same measurements and you do it this way, that you're going, reversing it in the middle there, you should be able to get all 6 of them out of the same piece. And then we'll do 1 more. We're going to go ahead and cut all the pattern pieces out at one time here, so we have it all ready to go before we start gluing. And there we have it, all out of 1 piece. So again, we have the going the opposite way there. I don't like to sound redundant, but at the same time, I want to make sure people understand how to be able to do that and get that done. And then I'm going to grab my green felt, and I'm going to use the smaller one for the top here. Now, if you remember, we did 2 3/4 on here. And again, the reason I did 2 3/4 is because of the math again. We're looking at 9 inches up and down here on this side here. If I did it 3 inches, which is my first ones that I tried, I didn't quite have enough to get 3 on here. I would be overlapping just a little bit by the time I had a little bit of space left over. So that's why we cut it down to 2 3/4 on this side here. So we can actually get 3 along one side here. Putting it on here again and again. So saving as much felt as we can. And when we get into doing the smaller hat. It's important to do it that way because I can actually get 6 of these pieces out of here and then another 6. So I can do 2 of these smaller flower hats off of 1 piece of felt. So I'm going to show you here on this as far as what we're going to do for the larger one first though. So we're going to line it up and we're going to cut out our 6 pieces. So if you're cutting along, again, we're just going to go along, take the pattern and just move it up here. If you want, you can just cut straight across. If that's easier for you, cut straight across. Just show you some easy, quick tricks. Cut it out, and then cut that little dip in it. If it's easier for you than just trying to hold all that felt at one time, and then just put that little piece out of there, gives you that little curve in there. Either way, you can do that. Just cut it straight across the bottom and then go back. Or when you're cutting it here, cut across, do your little curve. And then cut up. Whichever way you find quickest, easiest for you to do. And as I said, if you want to put more character into it, if you want to put more curve into the bottom of it, you can do that. If you want to go up more than just that 1/4 inch, that's up to you. I believe, once you've done it a couple times, you're going to be making your own creations, putting your own style into it and everything. Which is great because I love to see the way people interpret different things and the way they do it. Comes out just looking beautiful. And we're just going to cut into getting our 3rd one done here. A little trim there. Now, as we did with the other one, we want to turn it so it's going to be upside down. When we fold, we're going to fold this over. And you can see there's very little left on there because of that 2 3/4. And we're going to take our pattern and turn it over again. Fold it so we're not wasting our felt. Put that down there. And we're cutting it, starting at the other side. Open it up. The original one I tried, I came up with a pattern and I cut out 6 of them and I accidentally glued the pattern because I cut the pattern out of felt with the other 5, and that's how I realized it needed to be 6 to begin with. So 6 worked out really well as far as pattern wise, but it also did for a couple other reasons too, and I think there's a couple other designs that we can make out of this rather than just the floral hats, and I'm going to show you that too before we get done here, just to give you some ideas of other ways we can play with the same patterns. Anytime I make something, I like to have something that I can use over and over again in different types of gnomes. Even just the bodies. I like to take my bodies and be able to use them differently. My gnome houses that I've started to make. These here. This is actually one of my gnome bodies. This is actually the woodland pine gnome body, just modified just a little bit. So I got a little bit more rounder to it. and it fits well on top there versus my regular, just my regular body, which isn't quite as much. But we're not going to go into the bodybuilding or anything like that on these ones here right now, but I just wanted to show you that you can use different bodies for these too. Anything I try to make, I want to make sure that you're comfortable with. If you're using sock gnomes, if you're using pool, the pools, tubes or whatever those are, the styrofoam tube, the cones, I want you to be able to know that you can do that with any of these too. Now the other one we have is going to be our top, very top there that gets turned over. So I'm going to use the same piece of green felt. I'm going to fold it. So I've turned it this way. And I'm going to fold it here. Making sure my 4 inches is on here. And if you want to extend it out a little bit, that's fine too. Again, just giving it some character there. And we're going to cut the 2-inch. And bring it up to the 4 inches there. So we have all of our pieces all cut out, ready to put together. Now, with this one last piece of felt here, I'm actually going to use that and cut out another one of those very top pieces right now. That way I have it prepared for when I'm doing another flower. I try not to waste anything. But at this time too, I can use this for one of the smaller ones. So we're going to put this on and just set that aside. I'm not going to need that for right now. I've got my patterns done. And like I said, I will be drawing up patterns too and everything. So if people didn't quite get the measurements, that we'll have made up for you there. Set aside this. Even though there's just little bits and pieces here, this is great stuff to add little character to it. What I did here was I took these little scraps and all I did was take pieces off like this and put them underneath the hat or cut little pieces in there. So I could add some more character to the hat coming down. So don't throw that away. That's actually good material still. I try to use as much as I can. Now we're going to build it. Now that we have all of our pieces together here, and as I said, hopefully you have your glue gun out and ready. I'm going to take my piece. Got 2 pieces here. And I'm going to glue in just about on all the seam just on the one side and just about 1/8 of an inch in, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in, and just lightly. I just want to do something real light. Start at the very top too. Start at the top, so if you get that little glob, it's at the very top there, and then go along. Go along the edge there, and then you're just going to lay your first piece on top. And again, like I said, you want to do about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch in. What you want to do is avoid having glue come out the edge there. So just lightly sort of tap it together. And you're going to give it a moment. It only takes a few moments for it because you're not doing a lot of hard glue or a lot of globby type of thing. And then you're going to unfold the pieces. Just unfold them. So that's laying down on the side there. Just open the flap up. And you're going to go and do that again up there. So just glue along. The top part, if it's not totally together, that's fine because the top part's going to be underneath the next hat part. So I go along there. And one of the tricks too, I find if I squeeze just ever so lightly, I'm not squeezing that full trigger, I'm just squeezing lightly. I don't get as much of that stringiness. I don't get that stringy glue. You're gonna get some at times, but for the most part, it's gonna make it so I'm not getting that stringy glue that we all hate. And it's not just a matter of the glue gun or, I use on low temp, but if I'm just giving it a light coating of it, I'm not gonna be getting all that stringiness on there. So once again, I'm just gonna tap this here. Give it a moment, and then open it up. So here we're glued together. I got 3 pieces already together here, and I follow it around. I'm just lightly gluing. And I'm going to line it up here. Now, another thing, if you're not comfortable with it, putting the glue on the very edge here type of thing, you don't have to. This can actually come apart. That could actually be some of the character to it. It could also come down a little bit more at an angle or something, anything. That's fine. You can just glue up until here and then have it be like 2 pieces. There's no right or wrong to that. That's just making sure that, you're just giving it more character to it. And we're going to fold that back again. Looks like a little pinwheel going on here. Run my glue along there. Let's glue it down. If for some reason you feel like you didn't get enough glue on there when you open it up, if you have a little opening there, just put a little dab of glue on there to help hold it. Run that line. As I said, you want to, just lightly glue. You're trying not to have the glue stick out here because with these, you're actually going to use that seam. That seam is going to show. Now, that's why I say start at the very top, because you're going to be up in this hat on the very top. So if you got that little glue ball or something that sticks out, it's not going to show in there. So I got all 6 pieces. Now comes the trick. And this is something where you're going to have to take a moment. And I said, really, every time I've done this, I've had to think about this for a moment, because I almost always want to just go like this and glue that together. That's not going to work. I'm going to have this fold just looking wrong. What you need to do is once you get it glued, so you got your 3 pieces over here, 3 over here, you're going to be folding this on top of that one to glue it down. So don't just glue like this. That's not going to come out correctly. We're going to put it like this. And as I said, this is every time I've done this, I've had to stop and think and just make sure. Now I'm just folding these 3 over on top of these 3 and lining that up. So that's the biggest trick there, is trying to make sure that I fold it over. And just tap it along. And then once you have that, you have your basic flower. Now, this is exactly what we're going to do with the next part. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to glue the 6 pieces together, and then that's going to go on top of there. So this is all set, all ready. And we're going to take those 6 pieces and do the exact same thing. I'm going to glue them down. Glue that on, fold it over. That's always the big thing. Make sure you're laying it on, glue it, fold it. Glue it again. And if they don't quite match up, just try to show you here, my edges don't quite match up. Again, it really doesn't matter much on the very bottom there, or I could take my scissors and just trim that little bit there if I want when I'm done. I fold that out. Starting at the top. Run my thin line, just squeezing ever so lightly. I'm trying to speed up a little bit to show you that, so we can get this done here to just a little faster, because you've already done this on the one. And we're going to open it up there. Now, I did try sewing this, and it is, I'm sure, entirely possible, but I did not like how the seams came out with the sewing. There was either, thread showing, or it just didn't set right. So I went back to the glue gun, and I found that I could just put it together just as simple, and also it came out looking just as nice, if not nicer, doing it with my glue gun. For those of you who do really like to sew, you can give it a try. I've done that too. And we're just gonna stick you on there. And here again comes where we stop and think for a moment. I've opened it up. Now I'm going to have to fold that over onto there. So I'm going to glue that, and then fold onto the crease. So I can open that up, and that's going to give me my top part there. What I do is I line them up with the creases. I've tried to play around a little bit and see how it looks the other way, and you're always welcome to. Always try to do different things. And then when I'm putting this part on, I'm gluing my seams together. And I just run a little bit of glue in the seam. And as I said, I've lined up the seams here, and I'll glue that onto the seam. And then I'll go around to the next one and do the same thing. Just run a thin line of glue Now you can put more glue up in here. I like that I have some shadow here. I have some depth. You're not going to see up in there, but it gives us some more character there. It gives us, just some more depth to it. So that's why I like to just glue the seam together. And there I have just a little bit of space. And you're going to go around and do that for all. As I said, if I was doing a tutorial, I would have 5 or 6 of these just made up and just show you real quick, boom, it's done. But since we're doing it here live, we're going to show you how to glue each one. Again, I'm just gluing those seams together. And that's another reason why I said earlier that the top part of the first one there, if it's not coming together or if it's bunched together a little bit, it's going to be inside this top here, so you're not going to see it. Try to be careful with everything to begin with, but sometimes things don't exactly line up. There, I pushed the handle just a little bit more and got a little bit of stringy there. So I'm going to try that on other projects too, as far as pushing the handle just a little bit on my glue gun, because there are some things when I'm adding character to the gnomes or when I'm adding, the little embellishments or something like that, I'm going to be putting a little bit more glue usually on them, and I think that's when I get more of the stringiness. So by doing this, I don't get all this stringy. There. So I've glued that down. And the only thing I have left is the very top piece, which again is basically an optional piece there. It's a fun piece there, but you can actually do that and have that come out looking good without it. So I'm just going to take my piece here that I did with the 4 inches by 2 inches. I'm just going to once again, just run a little seam of glue down here. Fold it over. Got a little bit in there. Tap that. In here, once it's adhered to it for a moment, I'm going to turn it inside out. So I'm just going to give it a moment so I can do that. I could actually get away without turning it inside out too if I wanted to, just do like that, because I am going to do a fold into it. But I find it's a much smaller seam if I do that. I don't quite get the pointiness of the top if I turn it inside out. But that's another reason why I go up at least the 4 inches, because I'm not going to get the full 4 inches when I turn it inside out. And I don't even have to do all the way poking it out either. I can do it so it's just a rounded top. That's what I did with this guy. He's just got this rounded top here rather than the curve over. And then here, what I'll normally do is I'll just take just a very little light little bit of stuffings, a little bit of polyfill, fiber fill, and just stuff it right in there. So you just got about 1 inch of it, and then glue that to the top. And once I get that, like I said, polyfilled and glued, I'll just glue that right on there. If I want to do the turnover, I'll just fold it over on there. Now the other piece that I cut out because I got the two pieces out of there, what I do is I pick a different color and I do the same top hat and I make that becomes the smaller hat. So this is actually this is my medium sized body, and the other ones are my regular sized body. So I've come up with that I can use this as one hat, or I could just make this as a smaller hat. And again, I'm just going to take a color, no matter what color I want, and I'm going to do this exact same thing with the patterns. I'm going to, I'm not going to use that bottom pattern. I'm just going to use the top patterns, the one with the one I used on the green here, and the very top, and do the exact same thing. Cut it out. And cut up along here and give me, like I said, I can actually get 2 flowers out of one piece here. And then, since I already have my piece here, turn that and make that into the top piece there. So, trying to see if I already got one already cut out here for you, just to show. This is how the pieces came out, the exact same as the green ones that I used for the top. And I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm gluing them together the same way I glued this top piece, and then just adding the piece on top there. So just to give that to you quickly. So we have the bigger hat for him here, or using just the top part there and adding just a different color to it and putting that on there. So I can do both that way. And then again, just before I started here, I started playing with the idea of how would that look for even another hat. Put a gnome body underneath there, almost like an ice cream cone effect or something, and just going up there and having some fun with it. Getting some different colors. And you could do that. Put different colors into the edges there and everything. Again, just having some fun with it. There was one other thing that I thought of, a couple other things I thought of along with this pattern too, that maybe some people want to try. And I'd love to see people's takes on this and see how they do this too. If we just do straight across here. I have one here that I didn't put together. Okay, if we do just straight across, you can come up with an idea that could be close to like the baseball cap ideal. And I'm going to try that, see if I can come up with something that we need. Everybody comes up asking, how can you make a beanie? Can you make a baseball cap? I think this is something that'll at least get us those 6 around there to be able to do that. So we can come up with some different ideas here. We're just going to sort of do this on the fly here, because I got a couple ideas here while I'm working on this, just to show you. Don't have anything worked out yet, but I think we might be able to, and let's see if we can come up with some other ideas while we're doing this. I'm going to take, trying to quickly do this so we're not taking up so much more of your time here. Put these together. I've already, like I said, I pre-cut these out using the exact same pattern, the 2 3/4 up here. Now, to me, doesn't that look almost like butterfly wings? Don't you think that might be a great idea, that if we could put together something, and I'm probably going to try this here in the next week or so, do another one with the 3 on the other side and come up with something, maybe even different colors. Maybe I can even put some my acrylic paints into it. But that could be an idea coming up for wings. I don't know, it almost looks like a turkey type of thing. But just playing with that simple pattern that way to come up with something different. But if, put the other three together on the other side, just put them together, and we might have some wings. Try a butterfly gnome there. We'll have to give that a try. Also, as I suggested earlier, a beanie or a baseball cap type of thing. I'm just going to go ahead and glue this, all 6 pieces together here. And again, I'm just throwing some ideas out here to get people just interested in playing with the patterns, playing with different things. Any of this other stuff, like these embellishments on here, these are just from picks. You could get the picks anywhere from Joann's, Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, and all I'm doing is just taking little bits and pieces, sometimes even cutting them, very little parts off of them, and just adding on little parts, not, even little stems, just for character. So that's part of it too, is just taking the picks and using those to add the character too. And that's one thing I love, that because I start seeing everybody do different things. And people ask me, well, can we use your patterns? Can we sell, what we make from your patterns? That's fine. I love when people do that. I want to give people the opportunity to just be able to create and do their own stuff. And that's where you can grow and just do whatever you want, making from the simple patterns. And just taking it and modifying it to yourself, to what you do. You may find too that you might want to do something wider brim, more than just the 4 inches. Try something with 5 inches, 6 inches. See if you can make a bigger gnome off of that. This is just something I've played with for the last week here, just to create, to be able to show. And I have probably 6 or 7 of these now sitting around that I have different ideas that I want to play with, and you'll probably see more pictures of these as far as the houses and the gnomes coming up here in the next week or two. Just again, playing with some sort of character here. I'm again at the point here where I have to fold it over. And we're going to put this together. Again, I'm trying to rush things a little bit here, so I'm trying to be a little bit not as careful as I might always be. Give that a moment. So we got our flower together here. I love the dark colors too. Those come out real nice. And then we would glue this down and put that right up top there. But the idea I was having here is if you wanted to make like a beanie hat or a baseball hat, how we have it curved here, turn it inside out. Again, you're going to have to be careful with the glue, but that's also another flower that you might be able to make, doing something with some character here. So we have it curving inside. A little bit different. Just something to play with. I thank you guys for tuning in, for taking the time. Just had a lot of fun playing with that and just showing you different ways that we might be able to, and different things that I go through as far as when I'm trying to design and make something. I'm just going to be piecing things together, and I know you guys can do a great job, come up with some beautiful ideas, and I look forward to seeing what you can make with your flower hats. And I hope that this helps you.